And listen, I've also feel blessed that I got a chance to go to heaven, and I've been there. So I witnessed it, and I've seen it from my own eyes. So that's what's given me a lot of strength. Not a lot of people have that. I feel I've been blessed and got that opportunity to go and seek.
Okay. Expand that. What are you talking about?
Well, I talk about it in my book. So I told Christian before he passed away. I remember the moments while he was laying in our living room. We got a bed in their living room to make sure he's comfortable. We were always around him. I slept next to him with a blow-up mattress. His girlfriend was on the other side. We had a couch in between, and my wife and I would either sleep down there with him because he couldn't move. He was then bedridden his last month, and he was suffering. Right? Cancer just eats you from the inside out. And so we did everything to make him comfortable. He certainly had all the things to keep him comfortable. We were very fortunate to have that. But I remember leaning down, always snuggling into Christian's face. And I asked Christian, I said, listen, Christian, I need you to do me a favor. I don't ask you a lot. Christian would do me any favor. He said, whatever you need, Dad. And I said, listen, I need you to make a promise that you'll come back to see me. I have to have something because I have your mom. She's going to be crushed, and I've got a family to take care of. And I said, I need you to come back. And he said, Dad, I promise you I'll come back. Don't you worry about that, okay? And I said, okay. So about a week after Christian's passing, I had some other experiences, but, they're pretty unbelievable, but we'll chalk them up to instances within the week where I remember going to get the mail, and a mail person put her hand on my hand to give me the mail, and a butterfly out of nowhere. We don't get a lot of butterflies around here, but it landed on my hand, stayed there for about 10 seconds, and then it flew away. So, okay, signs. But about a week later, I was laying in bed, and I was transported, is the best way to tell you. I was not in a dream. I can't tell you a single dream I've ever had in my life, for the matter of that fact, but this wasn't a dream because I was in and out of consciousness. I went somewhere else, and I remember being placed in a basement. It was a basement with cinder blocks. It had a beautiful door, beautiful scenery outside, very bright. At that moment, I was like, I'm in somebody else's house. I should not be here. I need to get out of here. And immediately I was thrusted into a foyer, small tiles, gray, know the patterns, the square patterns, the size of those tiles. I looked up, there was a door. It was one of those 1970s doors used to have that looked like step ladders. They were tinted, gold doorknob. And I knew I was in someone else's house. But when I turned, there was Christian. There was a glorious fireplace. I would say it's about 10 feet away in terms of perspective. I'd say about 10 feet away from me. There were two chairs in front of me. There were two people in those chairs. They swiveled to look at me. They were shadowed. They were moving, but they were in shadow figured. In the distance was a step up. It looked like a kitchen area, something you would step up into. People mullying around. Too much going on, but they were all shadows doing their thing. And all I could see was Christian with that beautiful face. And he had this face that just said, told you I'd come back. And he had the most beautiful smile. And I remember I wanted to run to him, but as soon as I wanted to run to him, he was already in my space. He was right next to me. And we immediately hugged. And I could smell every part of Christian. I felt Christian. He started to talk to me. He said, Dad, I love you. He says, I told you I would come back. I need you to do me a favor. And of course I said, Christian, I love you. I'll do anything. What can I do? What's going on? He said, I need you to tell Mom everything's going to be okay. Tell her I am so happy. I'm very good. And I want you to, live your life. Everything is fine. But I love you very much. And I said, Christian, I love you. I don't want to go. And I remember, no, I never saw any lips. It was just us hugging and talking. And as soon as I backed up, I then faded back into my life. So I sat really in bed with my head up, and I sat for about an hour. I didn't wake up my wife because I just was trying to process what had just happened to me, because it felt as real as I am here talking to you. if not more real. And about an hour, I woke her up and I told her the story in full length. And she said, Chris, I have to tell you, last night before we went to bed, I went outside and prayed to God that he would come to you tonight. I literally don't do that. And I prayed tonight that he could do it because we're suffering. And I didn't know that. And so I talk about that in depth. And that was, so what I feel and what I saw was a glimpse of heaven. Whatever version that is, whether that meant that was Christian's place, which kind of looked like it would be sort of like his place. Seems like some kind of thing he would set up, sort of old school, and had friends. I could tell because there was too many people mumbling around. And I just felt he gave me a chance. And if there's anybody who could make a deal with God to figure out a way to get me to come in, to see him for a moment, to let him know he's okay, it was Christian. And that is what happened to me. And so, do I know there's a heaven? Do I know that there's another place? 100,000%, because it was too real, not a dream, very descriptive, very precise. And it's not the only instance where I've heard from others who I knew where Christian came and visited them in a physical form, that are not religious, who were blown away. And so I document that in the book, and so I feel really good about that. I think that's what gives me that comfort as we talk about, that I haven't lost that faith because I've seen it for myself.
It's beautiful. Chris, so my dad lost his wife. She was 33. About 5 years later, he loses my older brother, my oldest brother. He was 29 and he got killed in the war. So you can understand how my dad had to process all that. He lost his faith, but God never left him. So throughout his life, he became an ultra optimist. He became an entrepreneur. He instilled that in us, in the remaining kids. He moved to Canada. I think it was back in 2000. He was 16 years old, and he made a completely brand new life from 70 to 82. He ended up working at the NCR, and, he became a manager for one of the factories there. Just an astounding life, but without faith. But about 5 years before he passed away, he started meeting this lady, an older lady, and she started introducing him back to Jesus Christ. And it took 5 years. But about 3 months before he went, he reconciled himself with Jesus. He started walking with him. When I went and picked up his stuff after he passed away, I saw his tablet and it was filled with things from Jesus, and what to expect after he died. Scriptures, videos, you name it. He knew he was going. And that was in 2018. We were all happy because we knew he accepted the Lord before he went. And in January this year, we loved our dad a lot, because he was the guy that you could never face him with a problem. Every time I had a business problem with him, I would go cry, as an old adult. Dad, my business is failing. He's like, I used to draw a salary. Yes, Dad. Then shut up, I keep working. It's gonna be fine.
Right.
That mentality, right?
Right. It's smart.
It's these words. He was like that. He ran 7 businesses before he went, and he moved even to a different country with very little English. He made himself something in a different society, and that was because of the trials and tribulations he went through, right?
Right.
January this year, I had this dream. You gotta know that I dream vividly. Almost every night I have a dream I feel like I'm living in another life. Most of my dreams are to correct myself, or like the Lord speaking to me in dreams, or warning of things, or things that I did wrong that I need to reflect on and ask for forgiveness. This night, it was January, I know, the first week of January. It was like you. I was in and out of consciousness, in that between awake and sleep state.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in this big house.
Hmm.
My wife is with me. I know that my brother and my sister are in the front of the house in the living room, but I don't see them. And all of a sudden, I hear knocking on the door, and they open the door. I'm just hearing this, and then it's my dad walks in the door.
Wow.
With his beautiful voice. Hi, how are you doing? And then when I hear his voice, I talk to my wife, and I'm like, my dad is here? What? My dad? She's dead. And she's like, no, let's go see it. And sure enough, he came in. But, my dad was a chubby guy, at 82-year-old. He was a bodybuilder when he was younger. So he had a stomach, right? He was a very chubby guy by the time he passed away.
Uh-huh.
His legs were like humongous, but from muscle, but also fat, right? He was slim, super fit. He was not wearing a shirt. And now I know why, because I couldn't recognize him. He had his beard. He looked like a 30-year-old guy, not an 80-year-old guy, right? So I know why the Lord allowed me to see him without a shirt, because the first thing I did is I hugged him. And when I hugged him and I touched the skin of his back, I immediately knew he was my dad. But it was the touch of his skin that because because I used to lay on his chest all the time when I was a kid, right?
Right.
And then I started crying, and I was telling him, Dad, we miss you so much. Thank you for coming. My wife was there with me, cry. And all of a sudden, I feel his eyes start crying, and he comes down, like his cry comes down on me, like on my face.
You feel it. Right.
And then he's like, he separates, and he's like, he touches his cheek, he gets a little bit of his eye drops, and he's like, what is this? What is this? I'm crying? I forgot how to do that. I just started laughing tremendously. And we used to laughing with him.
Wow. That was real. There was nothing.
No, it was real.
Yeah. That really happened. You were given that chance to be there, I think that some of us have that ability to connect to that world that's just right around the corner, right? It's a step away, right? My wife does not have it. She's never been able to connect in that way. I have since not been able to connect, by the way. That was a one-time thing. I've asked, trust me, before beds to say, come visit me. He never comes and visits me. I do hear his voice, though. I hear my son's voice talk to me. It's almost like a phone call in a sense. It's hard to explain it, but that I'll ask for him to come, and it may take some time because he's busy, or he'll get back to me and say, Dad, I'll get to you in a little bit. I'm kind of busy. I suspect he's busy with. I believe that a lot of good souls are working hard on helping those who are here on earth, the ones that are struggling, those who are suffering, those who are trying to make it through, those who or the wars that are going on, those who are in the midst of being alone during their suffering or when they're dying. I believe that there are people, and I think just instinctively know Christian is somehow involved in that. Somehow that's his job, right? I think, anyone out there less think that there's not something to do when you're in heaven. I suspect you're going to be busy. There's things to do. You don't sit on clouds and you don't just do nothing. I think you're a busy person, and we have lives, and I think he has a life, and he's a busy guy. Sometimes I reach out to him and he'll be like, Dad, I'm kind of busy. I'll get back to you in a little bit. And he never truly explains the reason. But I know it's probably for good works. He doesn't want to overcomplicate it, because I don't think our brains are capable of understanding the full concepts of what they do. But that is an interesting story about your father, the tears and feeling that. And an interesting part is that when you could feel his skin, And I know that feeling. I remember when Christian was slowly passing, I memorized every ounce of his body, his skin, his wrinkles, wherever they would be. And I remember when I did touch him, I could feel those same things. It was almost like becoming one. And you can, and the energy of God's greatness just kind of connects you. And again, you have that. It's a different feeling, but it's very real. And very unique. Nothing like I get over here on this side, but I feel wonderful that your dad came and saw you like that, and you laughed, which is really great too.